Welcome in, everyone. Welcome back. It is Sunday Night Live with me, Dr. Taz, and we are live everywhere. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and to everybody on Instagram, hello as well. So you'll see me shifting back and forth to continue to say hi to everyone. I hope you've all had an incredible Father's Day and have had an opportunity to spend a day with your dad or someone like your dad in your life. I think it's so important and means so much to have that relationship in your life. I could tell you guys so many stories of my own, of so many people that have served as mentors to me over the years who have been dad-like figures. And of course, my own dad, which we had a complicated relationship, was probably the best way to see it. But so important to maintain that connection. So happy Father's Day to everybody out there. I hope all of you dads out there have had an incredible day and have felt loved and appreciated as well. And welcome back to Sunday Night Live. We're trying to get back on a roll with this. We've had some interruptions with everything going on around the world, but really the intention of this is to bring everybody back on track as we head into the week, to recap the news from before, and to really step into the next week feeling better, strong, and ready to conquer it all. All right, I'm going to start with a quote. You know that if you watch these, this is my favorite way to start. Here's my quote for tonight. I thought this was appropriate. One father is more than 100 schoolmasters. This is from George Herbert. So any of you guys out there that are fathers, important to remember how important your modeling is to everybody around you, the confidence that you give to a family, the security and the support, along with self-esteem. And study after study talks about how fathers are critical to the self-esteem of girls and the self-esteem of the family in general. So for all of you dads, remember this, please, as we go into the next week, that one father is more than 100 schoolmasters. All right, we've got a lot to download today, so I'm going to get right to it. We're going to tackle two topics at one time. We're going to tackle all the latest and greatest in the COVID updates, and then we're going to shift again to men's health and talk about all of you guys that are out there. I don't talk about men's health that frequently, but today we are going to, because of course it's Father's Day. All right, before we jump into Father's Day and men's health, though, let's talk about what the World Health Organization came out with today. I talked about the highest number of increase in cases today, this Sunday, comparatively compared to like the history of the pandemic, I believe. And so as you look at the headlines and as you scan the headlines, so many of you are saying hi Kathleen. I see a lot of you out there. Hello everybody. A lot of you saying hello to me. Promise I'm not ignoring you. Just making sure we get all this great information out to you. But when you look at some of these numbers where they're saying they've had the highest number of cases today in comparison to maybe the last few months, you got to keep a few things in mind. What really bugs me about the media is that it's fear and doom and gloom constantly, and that's getting everyone really scared to the point that some people have still not left their homes. They're still not socializing and mingling, and we've got all these studies here that I'm going to share with you in just a minute that talk about the effects of being isolated for such a long period of time. But remember, we're testing a lot more, significantly more than we were before. So we are going to see an increase in the number of cases. Also remember that as we mingle, you are going to see an increase in the number of cases. So that's why, again, we go back to the central tenets of protecting your health, your immune system, and why all of that matters. We'll review that in just a second. Secondly, as my sister, who's also a physician, reminded me, the reason to quarantine and to shut down in many regions across the world, including here in the United States, was to not overwhelm the healthcare system. And the healthcare system is no longer overwhelmed. If anything, many hospitals are underwhelmed. They don't have enough patients. They're struggling to stay open, and they're worried both economically and just from a patient load. They're not able to serve people. So we no longer have that fear. So when you put all of that together, we will see cases rise, but the effective death rate should not rise because we have the hospital facilities, we have the resources now, we have the knowledge. I mean, there was so much knowledge that was all over the place with COVID before, and people were so confused about, what's real and what's not real. So anyhow, so all of that to give you an update on, or some perspective on, the World Health Organization statistics that just came out. But I have a couple of studies I do want to go over with you, and I think they're important. And I think if any of you are watching today and listening, it's really important to spread this message and spread that news out there, because I think this is stuff that people need to hear. This is the story that you're often not getting or not hearing. Hi, Cheryl. How are you from Florida? I see that you've joined me. Thank you for always joining. I appreciate it so much. So many of you joining from many different parts of the world and all over the United States. I appreciate it. Thank you. Again, we want to get this message out of staying well educated, staying informed, staying healthy and superpowered, and also one of being united and really striving for peace. All right, let's talk about the first one. This is talking about depression and anxiety among new mothers. Any of you know a new mom out there? Well, she might be a little bit more anxious and depressed than you would expect for most new moms. And that's because the stress and the anxiety and the isolation are getting to mothers during lockdown. In fact, this is what it says. In particular, there's a high risk of depression and anxiety. This article, by the way, is in the journal Frontiers. Those for these new moms, these stresses come with side effects. So again, reach out to that new mom that you might know and give them a hug, or just check on them and make sure they're doing okay. More importantly, the depression and anxiety can last for years, and the side effects include premature delivery, reduced mother-infant bonding, and developmental delays in our infants. So again, isolation and lockdown has to end, guys. It has to come to an end. Furthermore, almost 64% of women are no longer exercising because they can't get into their gyms, or they don't have childcare to get into their gyms. And exercise is a well-known way to cure anxiety and depression. So that is really perpetuating a lot of this for so many moms out there, and for women in general, probably for men too. We don't want to leave you out of this conversation as well. So again, important to remember that a new mom might be struggling, that in this pandemic, isolation and lockdown is having multiple side effects, some of which are costly into the next generation when we think about the mom-child connection. All right, a couple of other stories coming out in response to the pandemic. Food insecurity. Have any of you guys been talking about food insecurity and what that means in the context of COVID-19 or coronavirus? Well, here's a study out of UK. 1 in 4 UK adults are at risk of hunger and potential malnutrition during lockdown. What is going on? So the survey finds that 25% of adults have struggled during the pandemic to access food they can afford, and that number seems to be increasing. So in addition to the very poorest, many of these guys are struggling to pay their bills and put food on the table. So many citizens, this one again is based in Britain, but so many citizens struggling to get good food. So what's going on here? Again, there are just areas, and that leads to this next study that I wanted to go over as well. They're just areas of the globe that have a lot of food insecurity. And it's not an issue with food production. So technically there's enough food being produced on the globe to feed the planet, but between food waste and interruptions in the food supply chain, food is not getting to specific regions of the world and to specific communities, and it's becoming more and more of a problem. This is also talking about a wake-up call to strengthen the global food system. This is from the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis. Again, I just think this stuff is interesting and so important, because one thing with the US and US news, I feel like it's very United States focused, but it's so important for us, as we've learned in the pandemic and with the race wars, for us to understand we're connected and how we impact each other at any given moment. So I really want to give you guys a global perspective, especially since we've got folks joining in from all over the world. I think that's incredible. And if you guys want to list your country there, you can list it. But I think it's just so incredible that we've got a global community here coming together. But this is the news you may not be getting because you're listening to just very politicized news here in the United States. So essentially, climate change is a major threat to agriculture. There have been droughts in many wheat producing regions, such as China, Russia, and Ukraine, that have led to crop failures, and it's pushing the price of food up. And the prediction is that due to COVID and the pandemic and isolation, the global food supply chain interruptions have led to food shortages in many places, mainly due to lockdown. So the World Food Program has warned that by the end of 2020, 130 million people, think about that, guys, 130 million people could face famine. So again, this is the fallout of lockdown and quarantine. We've talked about depression and anxiety in new moms. We've talked about women not being able to get out and exercise and not relieve their stress, and that's leading to more issues. Now we have an issue with food insecurity. There are other reports that I'm sure you guys have seen as well about domestic violence going up, children having more and more issues with electronic addiction. So no matter what the headlines say for you guys, wherever you are, and continue to spread doom and gloom and fear, remember that the number of cases will go up. I can guarantee you that the number of cases will go up, but the death rate should not go up, because hospitals and the medical system is now prepared and knows more than what we knew 3 months ago. So I hope that's a little bit of comfort to everybody out there listening who may be really worried when they're looking at these headlines. All right, a little bit of good news. Babies with COVID-19 do okay with this illness. They really just have a fever and then they recover very quickly, which is sort of what we've seen across the board in pediatrics, where kids get it, but they're able to rebound and respond to it very quickly. We just had that one small cluster in New York City where they had an autoimmune sort of manifestation, but that can happen with any virus. Any virus can trigger an autoimmune response. So it's important to remember that this is not just true of COVID-19, but any virus. Epstein-Barr, mycoplasma, which is a bacteria, Lyme, any of these things can trigger autoimmunity and have multiple effects on the body. So COVID-19 can do the exact same thing. So there's that. And then this study, which I thought was just interesting, so I'm including it. It just kind of made me think for a second. But the MMR vaccine, who remembers getting the MMR vaccine at some point in childhood? Raise your hand. I know we did. And I know that my children have. And I also know that it's on the schedule for many kids today. Well, this is interesting because they're finding that live vaccines like the MMR may help against the worst symptoms of COVID-19. So they're actually recommending a repeat MMR vaccine for healthcare workers or people who may be exposed to COVID-19 at higher levels than the rest, because they're finding that the proteins do something to shut off the viral replication and the inflammation that the virus sort of predicts. So interesting study there as well about using MMR vaccines. And then another report that came out of Stanford, I think it was yesterday or the day before I saw, where they have more progress on a potential vaccine as well. So everyone's working really hard to bring this pandemic to some sort of understanding where it is just another flu for us. It's not something that scares us. It's not something that shuts us down. I think everyone's working on many different fronts, but the fear and the fear mongering has got to stop by the media. And for all of us out there who are just trying to go day to day, again, remember, we've talked about this. You guys are probably honestly sick of me talking about this, but remember, is washing your hands, wear those masks in crowded public places, protect your immune system. I almost feel like quizzing you. Who remembers my rules of protecting your immune system? Remember, first of all, it's going to be making sure your diet is low in inflammatory foods, getting plenty of good plant-based foods, antioxidants that help fight off infection, lowering sugar. And then we talked about the importance of sleep, getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because that helps the immune system. It helps you fight off viruses and bacteria. And then on top of that, managing stress, and make sure you have your own anxiety toolbox ready to go to help you. And then last but not least, the supplements. We've been talking a lot about supplements that are important for the immune system. And I don't think at this point it's time to back off of that, as we're headed into summer. By the way, we also missed that yesterday was the first day of summer. Hard to believe with everything going on. But the supplements that I've been recommending over and over again are astragalus, zinc, and vitamin C. So much so that I put them all together in one of my newest formulas, and it's called the Defender. And it should be on all the websites soon for you guys to get. We're working on that part of it. But that will actually, that's that combo of the three things I've been talking about the most frequently to help us kind of keep our immune systems primed. Astragalus is from the world of Chinese medicine. We know it shuts down it helps augment T-cell mediated immunity, shutting down the viral load, whereas zinc also helps with respiratory infections, and vitamin C is essential as well. Great studies coming out of China talking about how vitamin C helps to reduce a viral load. So lots of good, hopeful information about COVID-19, things you can do so you don't feel so disempowered. So keep all of that in mind. And if you need a refresher, or if you're new to the Taz Tribe or new to following me on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, then you can go onto my website, go to drtaz.com, tortaz.com, and download the immunity guide. It's all things immunity. There's a whole guide there on some of the recommendations and things we're talking about. So check that out and see if that's a great resource for you to help guide you and point you in the right direction, especially as we all go back into reopening. All right, moving on. For those of you still with me, I know some of you probably it's late wherever you are, but check out my latest guide. This is the Superman guide for all of you guys out there. Okay, I don't talk about men's health very much. I don't talk too much about men in general, but hey, they're important, and today's a great day to honor them all. So for all of you guys out there, or for any women out there who have a guy in your life, and I know we all have a husband or a brother or a son or somebody, a dad that could benefit from this information, check out my Superman guide so we can have more supermen. Now, let me tell you how this works. So just like the power types for women, who took that test, and I know some of you know who your type is, but just like the power types for women, where when I merged together Eastern and Western medicine, and munched it all up together and mashed it and put it all together into a formula, then again, there are 5 key types of men that I keep meeting over and over again. And that type should be eating a particular way, should be sleeping a particular way, taking certain supplements, monitoring their emotional health a little bit, because they all have emotional strengths and weaknesses. So they need to understand who they are. And that's the first step to empowerment and to health and vitality. Because when you don't know who you are, how are you going to know what to do? So the first step in understanding your male power type, or who you are, what type of Superman you are is probably the better way to say it, is to first take the quiz. So if you again go to my website, drtaz.com, there is a quiz on there for you to find out your Superman type. Once you know your type, check out the guide, and we explain what each particular type needs to do, how you need to eat, some of the things that you may be vulnerable to, some of the things you may need to be thinking about, and hopefully all of that information starts that little flame in you of wanting to really optimize your health so that you could be your full self. And when we have knowledge, that is power, and that moves us forward. So check out the guide, take the test, check out the guide. The test is on drtaz.com. So is the guide, but take the test, because then you're going to understand. I'll give you a sneak peek. Here are some of the types. There's the warrior. I wonder if you guys can guess who the warrior is, or if you think you're the warrior. There's the trailblazer. There's an anchor. There's a protector. And then the 5th type, I believe I call the creative. So those are our 5 key types, but each of them with a prescriptive plan on how to eat, how to live, their emotional strengths and weaknesses, personality traits, and putting it all together in a powerful formula for you. So that's on the website. Go and take that test. And if you haven't taken that test, go take it and let me know what you are. I'm so curious. I want to see if it resonates, and if you guys really feel like you're learning from it and getting great information from it, because I want it to be something that is useful for a long period of time. So take that test and let me know what type you are. Go on my website, drtaz.com, and fill me in. All right, I'll bring up one more thing before we move on from out of the guide world here. And that's talking about the weight loss guide. That's the other guide that's on my website. And just like the power types and the mom types and the Superman types, there is a weight loss type. So for any of you that have been trying to lose weight and not sure how to lose weight, go check out this guide as well. There's a quiz to go with this as well to help you kind of navigate the tons of diet information out there, right? Isn't there so much information and you just don't know what to do? So hopefully this narrows it for you. And this is what we've seen work in our practice. And so check it out and let me know your weight loss type. All right, I see some of you responding. So we've got a warrior out there. We've got, let's see, any other types. We've got a trailblazer out there. So go get the guide and let me know what you think. Try the recommendations in there and let me know. I won't give too much away right now because I want everybody to take the quiz, but take the quiz and let me know what type you are. For the guys out there, take the Superman test. For the women, you can always take the power type test that started this whole testing journey. And then you can take the mom type test or the weight loss test. The weight loss is for anyone, for men or women. So take these tests and put the information about you, all about you, back together so you know who you are. So hopefully that's helpful info. All right. And as we're talking about men's health tonight on Father's Day, again, wishing everyone a wonderful Father's Day. For those of you newly joining, we're talking about men's health, where we just went through COVID updates. We've had a lot to cover, and we just mentioned the fact that there are 2 great guides on the Dr. Taz site with 2 quizzes attached, the Superman guide and your weight loss guide. So check those out and share your results. It's fun to talk about these results, especially if you're in a big group and compare what everyone's results are and their experiences are. But we are talking about men's health tonight. We've just covered COVID. Let's talk a little bit about men's health before our time is up together. Men have their own story, right? You guys have your own challenges, your own battles, things that you often do not talk about. So it's important for you guys to talk about your health, because typically this is what you'll do. You'll either ignore the issue and pretend like it'll go away and you won't communicate it, or you'll try to control it. That's what I've seen most men do. They try to jump in and try to control the issue, or they will play with a lot of data and really pay attention to data, or sometimes the wake-up call comes when things have really hit the fan. And so we don't want any of those, right? We want to think of health as a constant conversation with your body, and you're being proactive and you're understanding what's happening with you, so you can understand the little shifts before the big shifts happen. And I think that's the critical piece of information there. When it comes to men's health in my exam rooms, here's what I see most frequently. We see a lot of issues with cardiovascular health, heart disease, we see hypertension, history of strokes, we see issues with weight, definitely see depression and anxiety in men. So many of you, while women may present maybe more with anxiety, so many men present with extreme depression. So again, I think it's important to acknowledge that and realize that, because I think you guys stuff it down and don't really have the opportunity or the ability to talk about that very much, or to seek the resources for help. So I think it's so important for men to understand that that's a risk for them, and that's something that they should be paying attention to. And connected to that depression are sometimes hormone imbalances. I think whenever we think hormones or talk hormones, we always think we're talking about women. But remember, men often have hormone imbalances as well. And here's what's troubling and a little bit concerning, is that we've seen this happen in men earlier and earlier than we have in the past. So before, we may talk about a man's hormones shifting maybe in their mid 40s, late 40s. Now it's more and more in their mid 30s, late 30s, sometimes even earlier. And we don't know exactly why that's happening, but you might have also seen in so many cases where we've talked about sperm counts going down, infertility in men. It is happening at a higher rate than you would believe. And again, remember, I've been in practice for a decade now, and I feel like I'm seeing this more and more in the last year or two than I was seeing before. And so here's my theory on that. We've got an incredibly toxic environment. Men, just like women, are also very stressed. When you put the two together, you're crashing our hypothalamic pituitary axis. So the whole channel that essentially regulates how our hormones work. So for many men, your early signs are weight gain around the belly, maybe getting some man boobs, getting a little bit more tired, wanting to sleep a lot more, not having the pep and the energy that you once had. Those are all signs. And the answer for many of you, just like for women, is often, oh, I'm just getting too old. I'm just getting too old. But that is not the case. You've had often a hormone shift that needs to be identified and needs to be managed along with your digestive health. And the hormones, I'll be honest, and this is in the Superman guide, by the way, for anybody who wants to check that out, where each type has this particular hormone that they're more susceptible to, or more susceptible of having an issue with. But the ones that I see, maybe if I'm just talking universally, are having issues with testosterone, having issues with thyroid hormone, having a lot of cortisol dysregulation where the thyroid cortisol balance is completely off, having insulin issues. And all of those mix up together in a big old pot and create a situation where that chemistry is happening, but all you're feeling is tired, depressed, your libido's dropping, you're gaining weight, and you just don't feel like you. So for all the men out there who may be ignoring their health or trying to control it or trying to master the data, which I've seen so many of you do, remember, it's the subtle conversations that you're having with your body that prevent a major, major episode. And these are the conversations that are critical and should be in conjunction with the doctor or somebody, some healthcare provider that can guide you or direct you and watch these shifts and changes to help you along your way. I was having this fascinating conversation with this brilliant woman I know, and I respect her so much, but we were talking about how making changes and changing behavior can often be so difficult. And she was asking me, like, how do you get, she was speaking more from the finance world, I'm speaking from the medical world, but she was asking me, how do you get people to change? How do you create behavior change? And my answer back was fairly simple, and you guys probably agree with me. It was quite honestly, I'm like, people have to have a relationship, a vested relationship with somebody or something that is their partner. So that's either a doctor or a coach, a spouse, somebody who helps them and can be a sounding board for them. They also have to have some level of accountability. And then the numbers never lie. So when you know your numbers, you can track your numbers and kind of watch them change and shift as you start to make changes. The problem with conventional Western medicine is we're often tracking the wrong numbers. There are a lot of numbers to track that are critical for your health and tell the story of your body, but they're not often checked in the conventional setting. So that's why it's so important to foster a really investigative relationship with your doctor who's going to understand these subtle shifts and changes and help you master whatever's happening. So for all of you guys out there, if you're suffering in silence, that is the last thing we want you to do. We want you to communicate, find a partner, create relationship, find community so that you have a voice to talk about what might be happening, because it is real. Your health issues are real. They're not in your head. And things like depression, anxiety, weight gain, not feeling good, low libido, all of these things make you want to then engage in the following behaviors: checking out, not communicating, being upset with your life and how your life is playing out. And then oftentimes the fallout of all of that comes with an incredible price. So just like I've told women for years, I'm telling men now as well: know your power type, know who you are, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, develop and personalize a plan for you. Use the Superman Guide as a starting step, and use these Facebook Lives to get more help, or join the Taz Tribe, where we have more dialogue and discussion in a smaller setting about what might be going on with you. And continue the conversation with yourself, because we've only got one shot at this, right? And we want to be the best we all can be. All right, I think I'll get off that soapbox now. You're probably tired of me talking about all of that over and over again, but I just feel very passionate. It's funny because for so long I've been women's health, families, and men have a story, and it's a story that needs to be heard. So if you have a man in your life, or if you're watching today and you're a man, it's just as important for you to pay attention to your health as it is for everybody else. Okay, moving on. Let me tell you what's up for the week ahead, and then I'll answer some of the questions. I see a lot of questions coming through. So let's talk about up ahead. So we've got a couple of lives coming up during the week, and I'll post those for those of you following me on Instagram. Typically, those are on Instagram. So look out for those announcements there. We have some discounts still going at my practice at Center Spring, so I will post those as well. It's real interesting with COVID. We've expanded our virtual platform, and it's been really fun. We've had people from all over the world jump in: Iceland, Ireland, but virtual visits are still, for now, 50% off if you go to centerspringmd.com. It'll take you to the virtual site, and you'll see where you can fill in an appointment request if that's something that you want. And then I should have in my hand, hopefully by next week, my newest product. It's the Belly Fix, to go along with my book, The Belly Fix. This is a product to help digestive health, to help weight around the belly. And I love it. I have actually been taking it personally, but it's a combination of pre and probiotics, along with spirulina, along with MCT, collagen, and glutamine. So it's a gut powerhouse, and that's now on the Dr. Taz site and the Center Spring MD site as well. So check out that product also, and that's called the Belly Fix. More information about that coming out soon. So again, if you've joined late in the program, we've talked about a ton of stuff: COVID, what else? COVID, Father's Day, men's health studies, all this other stuff. But feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have. Let me answer a few. Actually, I think I have a minute or two. So someone's saying they were having more anxiety. Completely understand that. I think that's from Chris. You were having a lot more anxiety, but starting to go away now. And the anxiety is so understandable. I mean, you turn on the news, and any of us have anxiety. I think it takes place in about 2 seconds. So that's an issue. And then I have another question. You would love to do the quiz. The quiz is on my website. So go to drtaz.com, doctortaz.com, and go to take the test, and the quiz is there. So all the different quizzes are there for men, for moms, for weight loss, for children. All the quizzes are on there. Have fun with them. You can make it a family game even if you want to. And let me know. I want to know what the results are. So let me know what the results are so we can take a look at it. So, and then on, let's see, on Instagram, I've got a couple questions. People are asking when Hormone Helper is coming back. I love Hormone Helper. The reason it's in production halt is because I was experimenting with the formula and trying to make it even stronger than what it was. And I'm almost there, but I put berberine in it. I don't know if you guys have ever had berberine. It's an herb that helps to manage blood sugar. So it's a great idea in theory, but it really messes up the taste. So we're working on that, and that should be hopefully back out in maybe the next 6 to 8 weeks. So a little bit longer with that. If you're looking for a replacement for Hormone Helper, you can use a product called Ovasitol, or you can use a combination of choline with maca, which is the key ingredient in Hormone Helper. So that's the temporary fix for right now. But I promise I'm trying to get that formula right and just make it stronger for all of you out there with hormone fluctuations, high androgens, PCOS, and all those different issues. All right, I've got a new question. What are my thoughts on SEACT and black seed oil? Great questions. I love both. I love SEACT, especially for antioxidant support and anti-inflammatory support. It's used in a lot of cancer protocols. And black seed oil, my mom actually introduced me to, and it's excellent for skin health, for reducing inflammation, for gut health. So it's a really great oil. It's used a lot in the Middle East, actually, and has its roots and origins there. So that's another great one too. So yeah, continue to post questions. I'll check from time to time as the week starts, but hopefully this preps everybody for the week ahead, takes the fear out of the headlines that you're seeing over and over again, gets our men motivated to take care of their own health, and clues everyone into all the great guides on drtaz.com and the quizzes and the tests to help you understand you. Because again, at the end of the day, that's the point of all of this, to be healthy and empowered and to do what you're supposed to do in the world. You do have to be your best self. Otherwise, you don't have the energy to do that. All right, here's your prayer for the week. Are we ready, everyone? May the message of God reach far and wide, illuminating and making the whole of humanity as one single brotherhood in the fatherhood of God. And I think, again, that message of peace and unity is one that we all have in common, no matter where you are in the world today. God bless, stay healthy, stay well, stay superpowered, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.